Cory Bowman, welcome back to the studio, my friend. It's always a pleasure having you around.
It's always good being here. Thanks for having me, Brian.
Perfect timing on the heels of the AFTAB Proval called meeting. I guess they had a special session at Cincinnati City Council for the purpose of, they acknowledge that we have some crime problems. I mean,
go figure.
The fact that they had a special meeting called, that they had to come back from the summer recess break because they wanted to talk about crime, I think finally the message has gotten cleared through to them that we got some crime problems going on in the city of Cincinnati.
You know, outside of the topic that was discussed yesterday, I was actually looking at that over the last few days, and I see that, yeah, they do have a summer break every July and August, usually is sometime between that. Well, I don't know if anybody's aware, but in the city time, those months of July and August are the months where you have the most construction, the most development, the most need for sanitation, the most need for stopping crime. Crime rates are through the roof during those times. And so that just, for me, I'll be completely honest with you. On one of my social posts, somebody said they finally need to come back from summer break. And I thought they were actually joking because I'm like, we're not in school. We don't have like summer breaks and, spring breaks and all this stuff. But then I looked and I was like, wow, that is a part of the schedule. So maybe that's something we need to actually look at.
It's like Congress, they harumph for a while and then they get a month or two off, and they always have to run out of town. We've got things to do. It's Christmas break, whatever.
Which I understand, but for a city government, it's like some of the most key issues that are going on that need to be managed are during those months.
That's a great observation.
Yeah,
because and we all know that it's documented, well documented. When the heat goes up, the crime goes up. That's summertime.
Yeah.
We pretty defined seasons in the city of Cincinnati, as short or variable as they may be. We do get times a year when it's going to be hotter and when it's going to be colder. Maybe they should change the schedule and take their recess during some other months.
Something. Obviously, you got to look at all aspects of it. I'm not saying that people don't need time with their families or breaks, but there's major things going on in the city, and these are things that we don't necessarily need a special session for. This needs to be something that we need to be proactive in. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we're kind of pushing with not only our mayoral campaign, but like you said, there's great candidates for city council. We have Linda Matthews that's running for city council, and there's, like you said, many charter rights as well. This has to be a collaborative effort to where the Democrats they basically endorsed all the sitting city council and the mayor. And so anybody running against, I would encourage people, research who's actually going to be on the ballot in November. Do your research, and there's some great people that have great hearts for the city, and they're going to do what's best for the city.
Yes, I would like to think so. Or, at least try them out. It isn't like they're going to be permanently elected. You get an opportunity to vote them out of office after a couple of years. So, look, what the folks currently elected are going to do, which is really stay silent, sit on their hands, and let Mayor AFTAB Proval have his own way on literally everything. Or you may get someone with some different ideas. And it's one of the reasons why I miss Liz Keating. At least she would, raise her hand and interject into the discussion process an alternative idea.
That's all we're pushing for. There needs to be differences of opinion. There needs to be differences of thought, because that's how we're actually going to get stuff done. To be honest with you, I think that there's people that might even be on city council right now that they've shown by their voting records that they do have a heart for issues with the city. They have a heart for residents. Yep. We just need to have people be able to work together that have differences of opinion. And I think that's a huge thing that's on the ballot this November.
It is. So yesterday's meeting focusing on crime, you had posted on your page in mentioning that you're going to be on my program this morning, some crime statistics, which are not pretty. When you look from calendar year 2021 through 2025, there's just been an increase almost every single year in terms of number of incidents in crime. You got the city of Cincinnati overall. You got OTR as a separate category, downtown as a separate category, and the West End as a separate category, an area near and dear to your heart because that's where you live, that's where your church and your business are.
Yes.
But you can't look at this and say crime is down. Looking at OTR alone, 2021, there were 452 incidents. This year, I guess so far, 920?
Yeah. Yeah, and one thing, before we actually get into the current statistics right now, let's go back to actually in the early days of June. That's when they were saying that crime is down, crime is down, crime is down. We were seeing that right before summer, that was what was being said. And I want to throw this out there. It wasn't what was just being said by the current administration or by the city officials. It was what was being said by the media in Cincinnati as well. The media was covering that, yeah, crime is going to be down, crime is down. And I'll tell you this, anybody that was living in the city, anybody that was living in the downtown area, anybody that had a business knew that there might be certain statistics that were true that they were stating, but nothing could be farther from the truth when it came to the big picture of everything. So this is some statistics that were just at the early June that they were mainly focusing on the homicides. And
right,
so,
they did. They always, homicides.
So when they say
down.
crime is down, their justification was that homicide rate was down. Well, we weren't even getting into, for lack of a better term, homicide season.
Right?
Exactly.
I knew you were going to say that.
We weren't getting into it, so you had a winter, I don't know if anybody remembers, it's actually still going on right now, but the rain was going crazy during the springtime as well. So a lot of people were inside. But what was up was the aggravated assaults and strangulations, if you combine those two together. What was up was robbery. What was up by 93%, if you put it to 2021, was auto theft.
Yeah.
Burglary was up. Personal and other theft was up as well. So those statistics kind of showed everybody that was actually boots on the ground that, hey, this summer is going to be a rocky ride if we don't do anything to kind of combat this. And so now we look at our statistics that I posted yesterday, and we see that overall violent crime is up. Yes, we saw a spike of the homicides. We're seeing a spike of everything. But this isn't just about the homicides. This is about overall. And then now their statements aren't necessarily crime is down. I saw a post yesterday to where the wording was, well, if you look at overall crime based on, this is what they said, over the average of 3 years. Over the average. So they're going to have their statistics say whatever they want. There's this term called gaslighting, and it is nothing farther from the truth. That is what is happening in our city, and we need to be realistic on things, be truthful with the citizens. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that government can fix everything. Actually, that's probably one of the reasons why I'm running, is because people need to be reminded that there is other issues personally that we have to deal with as a society, but government needs to focus on its key aspects. And for our campaign, our key things that we're focusing on is crime, infrastructure, and spending our money properly.
All right. Well, it's always almost a laughable concept that you think government is going to be able to create a solution to solve the problem of some juvenile delinquent out there. Yeah, that's a home-based problem. You're going to get some punk out there that's running around 3 o'clock in the morning. That's someone who comes from a home that they don't really care to keep that kid accountable. They don't have their own curfew rules in the house. That kid's not going to be afraid to get his butt tanned by the old man if he's out late and gets picked up by the cops if they pick him up. So, can government really solve the problem? Just sort of, you got to ask that question out loud. But insofar as what they're considering, there was a time in the city, and the curfew's been around since, the 90s, and they used to actually enforce it. Introduced in the mid-90s, people under the age of 16, you can't be out after 10 p.m., 16 to 18-year-olds, you got until midnight to get home. But there was a period of time when they were picking up, sometimes 100 youths in one night for during curfew sweeps. Yeah. Now they're talking about bringing this back, but the reason they don't do this anymore, at least the impression I got from the reporting by the Enquirer and some other outlets, it's this: they don't want to label these children. They don't want to subject them to the criminal justice system. They don't want to have create a record. Well, that used to be one of the deterrents for kids committing bad behavior out there in general public. They didn't want a record. You're
exactly right. They're basically saying, we don't want the consequences of your crime to be the deterrent for your crime. And that's the thing, is that as a society, we have obviously the home structure, we have parents, we have things that we have to encourage from a community aspect. But when it comes down to it, the last straw is you've got to meet law enforcement. You've got to meet the law of the land. And that can't be something to where we ignore that just for the sake of, we don't want to put that record on individuals.
Let's pause and bring Cory Bowman back to talk about this. CoryBowman.com is where you find his website. You can help him out with his campaign, learn more about what the candidate's all about. We all appreciate and fully realize it's an uphill challenge for a Republican to get anywhere in the city of Cincinnati, but someday the residents of the city of Cincinnati might wake up and realize that for the past 4 decades and not doing real well by way of city management and maintenance. You got pension problems, you got crumbling infrastructure, you got failure to prioritize projects. Current administration's all in for all these green projects and dictating and edicts and mandates over all the neighborhoods on how they can reconstruct and how they can build. Connected Communities program foisted on every single neighborhood, then asked Bond Hill and Hyde Park about how they feel about the waivers that were given by the city council in spite of what the residents want to do special projects for well-connected developers. Hyde Park. That got a lot of people off their butts and out getting that campaign signed to get that reverse.
Yeah, over 18,000 signatures.
And I say every single one of those, this happens to all the neighborhoods. You have a potential voter in any given neighborhood. Anybody out there who is upset that the city of Cincinnati foisted Connected Communities on their neighborhood, depriving them of the options for development, you should vote for Cory Bowman.
Yeah, I mean, so if anybody's listening, I know that we say that there hasn't been a Republican that hasn't run for mayor in over 16 years, haven't had a Republican mayor in, it's almost 50 years that it's been done there. When it comes to this election, I'm telling people that this campaign is run on city issues. And every time that I look at these issues, these are not red or blue issues. You will not see this campaign dive into national politics because this is a campaign for Cincinnati.
Right.
And there's real issues that impact the city residents. And whenever I have a one-on-one conversation with people, I've had conversations with people that they say, we vote blue no matter what. This is exactly what we do. We're always going to be a Democratic Party. When I have a one-on-one conversation with them about the issues, not about the national politics, we always find common ground and we always see that we all have the best heart for the city. And that's what needs to happen this November.
Well, that's how firmly entrenched the propaganda campaign is. If people do not regularly pay attention to politics, and then which allows them to be capable of coming up with their own conclusions about the propriety of whatever council or the mayor does. Like, wait a second. I've been following this issue, and what you're trying to do does not address the problem. You got to do something else. If you pay close enough attention to politics, you can see through that indoctrination campaign that says, I got to always vote Democrat. That's your one-on-one conversation going right there.
Yeah.
Once you get into the weeds and you talk to someone with common sense, logic, and reason, they're like, you know, you're right, Cory. You are right, and that other person was wrong, Perval or whatever.
Well, this is what I can't get over, okay? Because there was a stabbing that happened at the beginning of June of Patrick Herringer, and his wife Sarah has been overwhelmingly vocal about what is happening to our city. Right?
Yep.
Now, it wasn't until that happened that these issues, these special sessions, these special programs were addressed with so much, publicity that they are right now.
Yesterday's meeting was a consequence of her activism.
Exactly. This is my question to the city council and to the mayor right now, because I'm being told repeatedly, and I hate thinking this way because I'm a pastor and we see everybody the same. I've been told on this campaign that the black community won't vote for you. The black community, that the Democratic Party is the one that takes care of them. I'm telling you this right now. Why on earth didn't they care about the black children that have been murdered on our streets up until early June?
Yeah.
They only made their voices clear whenever somebody on social media was being loud about it from a stabbing that was happening in OTR with the Hyde Park issue. They're being vocal about it right now, but where were they when it happened in Bond Hill? Where were they when it happened in the West End or in Avondale? Whenever these communities are affected, they don't say anything because it's just, this is what happens with city government. But whenever people are loud enough and have the resources to back it up, that's when they get proactive about it. And that's the thing that we have to realize, is that this is an election season. They're going to say whatever they can to get elected. They're going to put whatever statistics out that they can to get elected. But these people do not have your best interests at heart. And we are running this race because my business, my church, and my residents now is all within the West End. We hear the gunshots every night. We care about these kids, we care about these communities, and we have practical solutions to fix these problems.
Well, and you know what? Isn't it interesting that no one has made a racial allegation over this Sarah Herringer thing? A white woman has lost her white husband, white business owner in Over the Rhine. She squeaks. She's the wheel that gets the grease. And look, they're acting. they form a special council meeting. They call in to talk about violence in the city because she's out there engaging in activism and bringing all of this crime to everybody's attention.
What about
all the black families? Yeah. What about all the black children? What about
the veteran that lost his life in Northside the week after because all of the officers were deterred to OTR instead of College Hill?
Another great point.
So, yeah, this is what we got to
So maybe we could say council's racist. They don't care about the black community. They don't care about the black neighborhoods or the black victims.
Just like what Sarah's saying, that it's all about optics instead of the outcomes. It's all about being reactive instead of proactive. We're going to look ahead. We're going to look at the real issues that are affecting our city. Guess what? Me as a community leader, I don't have to move downtown for only 1 or 2 weeks to see what's going on and then return back to my house. That's where my family is. That's where my business is. That's where my church is. We see it every day, and that's why we're fighting for the city.
CoryBowman.com. Cory, I always appreciate your enthusiasm, and I'll keep pulling for you, and hopefully, I'm sure you and I'll be talking again between now and November, probably multiple times, at least I hope so. Help Cory out, and again, look into the other options you've got out there. I mean, Lord Almighty, you got some great options other than the current slate of Democrats. So, you do have something other to vote for, and it may very well serve your best interest.